Welcome, everybody, to the Paladins Minor League. My name is Gormizer, and today we have a very interesting set of games for you. But before we get into that, this is going to be the pre-show desk. Of course, joining me now for this one is going to be none other than Nick Pretty Hair Keogh.
Hello, everybody.
So how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. Ready for some minor league action. I'm ready for these rosters to start getting settled a little bit. We had a lot of swaps and drops and flip-flops in the first week, so now I hope these guys can find their identity and rock and roll.
It kind of feels like each team or each region has like one team that like is still trying to find that like solidified state. Like Bork is in North America, but in Europe it's actually been a really interesting kind of route, and specifically for a couple of the matchups, because I feel like from top to bottom it's an incredibly close set of teams, but we still have a little bit of a divisiveness. Like top is very obviously going to be better than the bottom, but the top three teams so far have proven themselves time and time again.
For sure. And we'll get to talk about this a little bit more on Esports Weekly, but I'm wondering if the minor league is going to just become, who's got the most PPL players, or who can like put together a roster that's going to like really come together and be a really strong unit as five.
Well, we can actually look through all the games we have today, as well as just where these teams have been going. The first up is going to be ClownFiesta and Blazing Hussars, followed by All Business Sour Team. Then moving to North America, we'll have Ferocity, Bork, Zenith, and Downfall. And I believe most of these setups are either a 2-0 team going up against a team that's 1-1, or an 0-2 team going up against a team that's 1-1. So either today is going to grow a gap between these regions, or we're going to see it kind of close up again and just kind of show us again how close these teams can be.
And in terms of our first matchup, we have a couple of guys here from the PPL, Alex being one of them. And I asked him what he thought between ClownFiesta and Blazing Hussars, and surprisingly enough, he did vote for ClownFiesta today.
Well,
so if you want to vote with the pro, go Clown.
I mean, they've been able to do a lot, and you can actually see the main reason they're up above All Business, just that one -1, the game plus minus on the side. But they have been a team that, admittedly, if it wasn't for the fact that Sour Team won their, 5-game set last week, it would have been very much them being on top as a 2-0 right now. So having that kind of go back and forth specifically, I think ClownFiesta has proven themselves as a solid number 2, potential number 1, and I think this is a place for Blazing Hussars to potentially try and step up.
Yeah, hopefully, right? When you lose a guy like Alex, there is some room to close that gap just innately, because that team is going to be falling maybe a little bit behind, but it doesn't really look like that's necessarily been the case for ClownFiesta. I thought Davazy slotted in very, very nicely. He's played very, very well. And again, those are 3 incredible players that Sour Team have fielded for that roster. But even, I believe we saw the announcement yesterday Zarini would come to sub for Navi. Yeah. So that's again, rosters up in the air. Sour Team's got to find a way to continue to operate in the coming weeks. I believe Zarini was still here to play these games, so in the coming weeks they'll have, and so it's just a lot of flux, man. Europe could still be up in the air. The important thing is to not give up or not, feel too defeated. It's only 3 weeks. This is going to be, I believe, a 13-week phase.
But they're going up against Blazing Hussars again, who at this point are 0-2. So they've not been able to find their first win, but that's not to say they haven't been trying. They've gotten incredibly close, I want to say, every single week. And, I mean, Andrew Doodle, they've been playing amazingly. Tutu, the rest of the crew, they've had all of the work put out. It's just coming down to, those last objectives, really, where they just tend to let it slip through.
And this is still largely a roster that is, somewhat new to playing with each other. So finding a home here. A lot of teams are going to be in flux. This is a team that has stayed relatively consistent despite their spot on the standings. So hopefully that consistency will start to pay dividends in the form of synergy.
They have a very consistent style, and I feel like that's something a lot of these teams don't necessarily struggle with. Normally when you're still trying to find your home, you're trying to figure out where you're going to be, and that's typically where we see ClownFiesta on the one side. As much as it isn't always the Simsaloo show, it kind of sometimes ends up being that, where it's just that highlight we had earlier where he's on Zen. And I feel like Blazing Hussars are still kind of relying kind of heavily on Andrew Doodle, but you're starting to see a big push from Graphies, from Kamikaze, from the rest of the crew to match that.
Yeah, they'll definitely get there. I definitely have confidence in that roster, and I think it's strong. I don't know how the team chemistry dynamic, I think that stuff, again, that's consistency. That's going to help to sort of bring that up, and that's going to be, I think, what they need to play off, because they don't have 3 ex-PPL land players like Sour Team do. Some guys got to make it work without that.
Well, we're going to be able to see where and how they're going to do as we go into the map number 1 for this set. And it's going to be none other than Serpent Beach, Frozen Guard, Timbermail banned out by ClownFiesta, Frog Isle, Ice Mines by Blazing Hussars. And so you're going somewhere pretty comfortable. I'm always happy when I see Ice Mines and Timbermill banned out. It means we can't go there. And
yeah, buddy.
Makes sure the set goes smoothly.
That's right. And Serpent Beach has been an interesting map to kind of watch the draft develop for. And again, the draft is going to be a super, super fun thing to watch this year in particular because we do always know our differences between, PSA. When you're talking about console, you got 4 different metas, regions, console splits potentially. In the minor league, you still have the NAEU. The Premier League has always done, I think, a big part in setting the meta. Obviously, you sort of look to the top and see what they're doing. But now that it's just all one region, that's going to be really, really fun to watch how those drafts start to play out. And if there's going to be a lot of differences at the start that start to smooth out and come together towards the end, and then how that affects the console and minor leagues.
And, you had actually, again, this is something that you want to talk about tomorrow on Esports Weekly, but I kind of want to pick your brain just for a quick second. With everything for the Premier League being on LAN, do you think that meta is going to be able to shift down? I mean, obviously, Makoa is going to be good pretty much wherever he is.
That's a good question.
Do you think being on LAN, like maybe Cassie's going to hit harder online than she does at LAN?
Depends on the
question.
Yeah,
that was a bad champion example.
No, I know what you're saying, and I think that's actually a really good question. It depends on the champions, right? We have had those LAN champions that do get better with lower ping in the past, but the biggest ones that I think we've always talked about is like Bomb Kings and Drogos and Blasters and projectiles and things that are more heavily affected by ping than hit scam would be necessarily. So maybe Drogos comes in on LAN and can't translate to online. Bomb King is just good enough, man. He's just strong enough where it doesn't matter. It sure helps to have lower ping, but I don't think it really hurts him too much to throw some ping on there as well.
And unsurprisingly, Bomb King banned away. Surprisingly enough, so you get Inara, you get Torvald, you get Furia, something I would say that's common. Torvald actually a little lower priority than I would say. And Buck, this is a good map for him.
6% pick rate, and this is definitely something you would have expected Fnatic to be running this last season, right? A little bit earlier last season, but last season nonetheless. And this is something that was praised kind of for its mobility, but it went with their dive style of comp. This is when they were running 3 DPS. They would run, Torvald, Buck, and whatever the hell Tenor wanted to run that day. So that's my question, though. Does this Hussars lineup now have enough damage with just the Torvald-Buck combination? Yeah,
there's going to be a lot. I mean, I'd say a lot relying on Buck, whereas on the other side, Leon, you have Pip. You are pretty much set if you're a ClownFiesta here. You're going to have to deal with a lot more on the side of Blazing Hussars, going for a triple front line, although they do have a good amount of damage amp to make sure that Buck can do the damage. But we are in Serpent Beach, and we have your casters, Dave and Evan, standing by.
Thank you so much, Gore. Triple front line. I never thought I'd see the day this was coming back consistently, Dave.
No, we saw, what was it, a quad front line at the end of the day yesterday, but that was Elevate, and they were feeling comfortable, so maybe a little bit out of the ordinary there. But yeah, triple front line coming out. Torvald, Inara, Buck, Barak, Furia. I mean, that is the strong, interesting lineup. If there's somebody who can make it work, though, I think the Hussars have an interesting shot at it. They haven't started off necessarily the strongest, but they certainly have a lineup of players who can make a composition like this work, I think.
Going to be interesting as well. Clearly trying something different to get some different results. I'm all about that. Early kill on the stocks there, so that's the healer gone. Nice hook from Ovim. And that is continuing to add the pressure. This triple front line, it's key that it gets going early. If it doesn't, it could be a little scary with those cauterizes, those wreckers up. Ovim decided to play a little more cautiously, activates the shield, 500 health left, and he's got his Pip nearby, so knows a healing potion is right on the way. ClownFiesta looking good to start.
And at least early off, one thing that I noticed is, I mean, not necessarily that this will bode for the entire game, but a general lack of damage coming out, at least initially from the Hussars. You saw a lot of mid-range, low-level targets, but just no one able to step in and clean up a lot of those kills. I know that the Torvald shield on the Buck is something that they're going to look at to utilize a lot of this game, something that maybe wasn't utilized enough early on there, but that's something that'll need to change if they're going to win some of these fights.
And they have to keep getting these kills, too. I mean, there's so much sustain. Two-toot spin on the point. Nice try for the stun. Volka just a little off there, but Simsalou able to clean it up. This is the deadly option here because he's so flexible, not only providing some crucial damage when you got Inara shooting at you, getting healed up for 1600, or even if you have Rejuvenate's going higher than that, it's going to really put a damper in her kill potential. And Simsalou, he's bringing a ton of it on the Pip. That's an easy, early first point for ClownFiesta.
Yeah, and 1-0 early on here, and one thing that also needs to come alive. Nice hook. And I was about to mention this. One thing that this lineup also depends on when you're running a triple tank like this, the Furia heal is pretty key. I mean, that's one of the highest heal per second heals in the game.
Yeah.
And the only way to keep those tanks alive through the amount of damage that's coming in against them is to utilize that at the highest potential. So Furia dying early there certainly does not help the defense very much on the Hussar side, but something they'll look to improve on as this game goes on.
And that's what their comp's about. I mean, getting that beam together, and you've got 3 great targets for it, and a lot of people running, you know, some help for Barrack, so getting him up to that maybe 4K, not this time for ClownFiesta, maybe being a little bit more intentional about just getting the damage, getting some of the healing from Healing Station, or making those turrets that much tankier with Forged Ally. Bolka setting up a stun, it's going to hit, and is he going to get it? He gets the bubble, and Bolka, though, still looks like he's going to find the trade. Another reset. This man has like 1 health. Oh my god, the shield finally falls. There's the Hyper Beam, but a beautiful spin by Ovum, anticipating it. They ended up taking down not only 1, but 2 remaining defenders here, and they push this one in for 2-0 in under 4 minutes.
One thing to look at going into this next round, you're the Hussars. You got a 3-minute 45-second first round there.
Not bad for you know, Tuesday morning.
Right, not bad to get things started off here for the day at all. But the Hussars still have 4 of their ultimates available. On the other side, ClownFiesta with just the 1. So that's something to look at least going into this point fight. They have the utility that they can utilize to potentially turn the tides on this, but they got to figure out some way to find the correct damage and pair that with the healing from the Furia, because right now that's just not coming through.
Seeing a little bit of the look here. Brave and Bold actually being opted for from ClownFiesta. It was a little hard to tell due to the bubble that he was getting, but 750 in the pocket
going full
there.
tank.
And going full tank, and you know, we've seen this card utilized a little bit more. I mean, a lot more in this iteration of the season. That's a good Dread Serpent by Bolka, though. And Tutu goes in with the Seismic Crash, going to give him the CC immunity. And there's an aggressive Dome Shield trying to force them down to the low ground, and it has worked. Simsaloo is 1 shot away, and so is Ovim. And they do not have ults to be able to utilize yet, just the Enlightenment, Dave. So far, this is looking pretty decent for Blazing Hussars.
It does, and they did utilize those ultimates that we talked about, and it gives them an initial advantage here on the point, 42% in climbing, but they do have to still deal with Simsaloo here, who is that obnoxious Pip who's been bouncing around. Sort of hard to hit. You got the Buck, you got the Barrack who can deal some damage to him, but not a lot of hit scan to deal with that Pip who's flying around, and it looks like ClownFiesta's opting for a retake here. See how it plays out.
And this is how you got to do it. You got to give them that space. They are too tanky. You can't finish them off that much, but once you let them overcommit, they don't have the damage to win a 1v1. They don't have the escape mobility, the Inara, the Barrack, even though he's got the resets, the Torvald. My god, that man is like walking on a cane trying to get out of a rushed team fight. So at this point, ClownFiesta play that one perfectly. They let ClownFiesta and the rest of the team overcommit a little bit, and then Simsaloo brings in the damage that's been so hard to get rid of.
And a lot of the Hussars' point there comes from the fast cap. I mean, they have when you're down 2-0, you get the 4% increase per tick instead of the usual. So that's where a lot of their point comes from. But I think I noticed the longer that the fight rolled on, the less chance, I guess, the Hussars had. They didn't have the damage really to keep up with the ClownFiesta lineup in this case, and didn't have the sustain with the Fury Beam. Maybe not reliable enough healing with it only going on to a couple targets.
Oh, beautiful.
But Hussars need to find a way to stop the bleeding here, because ClownFiesta's pushing for a 4-0 sweep.
They may have gotten to the hospital just a little too late, Dave. I feel like this one isn't going to be able to be brought back to life. They may have needed to act sooner, and that's the key. When you go triple tank, you kind of commit. Obviously, the Cassie was banned, so they didn't feel comfortable with another damage flex. They didn't feel comfortable with a flank, but the Barrack has not done what they've needed to give them enough to compete with Simsaloo. He's just free. He is free right now. Too much damage. Looks like maybe Chemiker's trying to set up for a potential Hyper Beam. He's got 6% left. Andrew Doodle finally in the Buck Wild finds the trade, but Arrays, meanwhile, has been getting everything he wants. A triple kill, looking to make it a quadra here to start it off. Hits the Enlightenment, forces ClownFiesta out, and at this point, there's a little bit of a spray battle going on. And Ovum seems to be winning it.
Does seem to be winning it. So close to going in here. Oh, the Hyper Beam nearly getting him off the map. Unfortunate to have clipped the wall there on the backside. So Hussars are able to stop the bleeding at least for a moment. The Buck did come alive, bought themselves a little space there at the initial opening of that fight right there, but you saw Erase on this Leon really turning things around, and Doodle dropping again that's their main damage dealer. That's not going to bode well. ClownFiesta could look to push here for the win.
Yeah, Kamiker and Doodle seem a little bit disconnected as far as the way they're playing. But right now they're buying for time. They know that time is what they need. This defense is okay if they can get it. But at this point, it looks like everyone is collapsing. This House of Cards may be crumbling faster than Blazing Hussars wanted. ClownFiesta about to walk this one in for their first win of the day. An Inflame from the Furia. Can it stop anything? Can it set up the big play? Solar Blessing, the Dome Shield. This is going to be a little bit of a stabilization.
They are bouncing back and forth here. 27 seconds left. One down on either side. Toot gets feared off of the point there, so almost walls herself off. I think she's contesting from back there on the wall, so at least safe for a moment. But ClownFiesta does end up taking the victory, unable to get the full contest there at the end, but a clean 4-0 sweep there.
Very clean 4-0, and the way that they went about that too, for me, was executed perfectly. Then when you see a team doing something that's a little bit weird against you, you have to punish them, especially if you know how to counter it. They clearly did.
They did.
The pip was unstoppable. They just didn't have an answer for it on the high ground.
They didn't, and on the flip side, you look at they invested so much in that buck. I mean, that buck was really the linchpin in the Hussars lineup. I mean, the flank, the Torvald shield, that all needed to work out. Didn't work out this time for him.
Well, let's send it back to the desk. Game 1 is done, but there's still more of the set to be played.
Well, triple frontline did not work, I guess is the only way. Like, it's back to the drawing board for Blazing Hussars. That they came in, and again, I feel like we had mentioned a lot of pressure on Buck to perform.
Yeah.
And didn't even kind of glance at the fact that, Simsaloo is going to be playing Pip, where he's going to be super comfortable. You have a Raze, which was a name I hadn't seen in a while, but he seemed to fit perfectly in. I don't know if there was ever too much of a chance for Blazing Hussars.
of about 78K there. Nobody really even coming close. Nobody was able to break 60 in this game, aside from a Raze. So much pressure, though. I mean, K-Crunchy, Ovum, we know how aggressive he is. 14-1 on Makoa.
Jeez.
I mean, this is that conversation of, like, it becomes too easy for you to do damage as a Raze if you just have every one of your teammates absolutely running over the opposition.
Well, I actually think it's funny to see this because I feel like Ovum, in my mind, has kind of stereotypically become Inara, in my mind. Like, he's just the same person. Like, Inara and Ovum are interchangeable. If you showed me a picture of both, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Nice shot.
But when you finally give him an aggressive frontline, someone who's meant to be aggressive, he does something like this.
Yeah, definitely. He's running up in their face, leveraging that great movement speed on Elim card, and it's a long buff, that movement speed buff that Makoa gets after Elims. And he was leveraging it so nicely because it's just one kill after the other, and it's only on eliminations, right? So he's getting it pre-Ancient Rage here, and then going in already with his movement speed, just maintaining. I mean, this is nimble 3.5 Makoa just ripping across the battlefield the whole game. It's tough, man. That is a tough character to play against.
Well, I mean, with the way they were going, there was not, I want to say, a lot to break down on the side of ClownFiesta. They just played well. What do you want to see from Blazing Hussars, I guess, going into Game 2?
I mean, that draft, there's kind of the right idea there. What doesn't really make sense to me is the Barrack. I think Barrack is like that point front runner you grab if you don't get a Nara there. And the Furia can absolutely make that work. But if you're going to do the Furia and Nara thing, I don't see what the Barrack sort of brings that isn't already there in a way. So I think the Torvald could have worked with that composition. But again, when it all comes down to like Torvald +1 doing damage, it's very easy to just take out one win condition, right? Because there's no other win condition like kind of pounding you from the side. There's no Leon, there's no Cassie, there's nothing else really keeping that pressure up. Yeah. So maybe draft something a little bit different. We say triple frontline, but I mean Torvald at this point is kind of just that like support.
He's a support. He just shields people. He's a shield machine. And I feel like that was a very much all in on Buck kind of composition.
Yeah.
Didn't quite go all in as I guess.
Maybe it
Buck
could have been a more
wanted.
aggro front. Maybe it could have been a Fernando or something, right? I don't love Fernando, so I'm not going to say you should have done that. But
I'd honestly, if I'm going back, I'd take a damage honestly over the Barrack. But we'll have to see what they do. It's going to be Jaguar Falls next on the list. Is a 4-0 on Serpent Beach. If you blinked, you might have missed it. So now we're going to be coming in, and this is, I guess, again, the opportunity. Blazing Hussars. I like the idea of where Andrew Doodle was. Don't mind the Buck, but I feel like it's very much where the rest of them sit that is going to matter the most for this set.
Buck hasn't been super relevant for a long time.
Not since that huge damage reduction nerf.
Yeah, he lost a lot of DR, and man, he hasn't even been like in the Talasy spot where like he's viable without a Torvald. Like sometimes he'll be picked up in a niche spot, like maybe a Sky. We're seeing an emoji ban come out. I don't love that because that's kind of troll to me.
I I know there has to be a mentality, because you don't get thrashed 4-0 on the first map and then come
Maybe
to the
they know
second one
something I
like, I
don't.
mean, we can ban Moji, but like,
Maybe they know something I don't.
she's out there.
Yeah, maybe they know something I don't. But haven't seen that character unless one team is just absolutely owning,
Yeah.
and they just feel like picking it up. They go for the calm first pick here. Bomb King is open, Inara is open, and that might be the way ClownFiesta look to go here.
Gonna wait to see the second. It's gonna be Grover. Oh, actually making it through. It's kind of weird. So Moji, in my mind, is in that area. Like, maybe Blazing Stars are like, well, we just got 4-0'd. We don't want them to 4-0 harder with emoji. So take that away. But
That's
I mean,
not
you give
the
up
right way to
Inara,
ban.
you give up a great healer in Grover, and you're grabbing Khan Cassie, which has a lot of damage potential. You get the Bomb King, so I think you're having a great counter. Like, this is a much better draft from Blazing Stars.
This is a good start for them, for sure, for sure. They have a Grover Inara here, so they might look to turtle up a little bit in a sense. I think they might go for something like an Ashe. They grab a Xin, too. That's always good for Simsalo. He's been banned out a little bit. Obviously, the pip gets taken away. That was in here last game. But if you can pick a composition that stays relatively close together, or at least within arm's reach, or Vine's reach, I guess I should say, it definitely lends itself well here. And the Dredge will come out as well. I don't see the light on this composition quite yet.
I mean, the only thing I can think to finish it out is going to be a Genos, for Luminary to get just... The concept went from, okay, let's all in on Buck to let's just all out damage. It's a still very all-in kind of composition. If that Luminary doesn't do what you need, if you don't have Rejuvenate, if you don't get Khan, I guess, surviving enough, they don't really have a point.
It's not
to
bad.
Stand on.
No, but what Blazing Stars has drafted is not bad. It's just going to be a little bit harder to execute, I think. Especially ClownFiesta have the more stable, slightly meta composition, and they are clearly having the momentum here in this set. But again, what Blazing Stars have put together, not bad, just probably a little harder to do.
Well, the question is, who's going to be able to win? Is it going to be the bombs, or is it going to be the standard draft from ClownFiesta? We have Evan and Dave standing by to take you through game number 2.
Thanks, Score. You know, I would bet against the standard draft, but I'm a huge Bomberman fan from back in the day, and I would own my friends with some Bomberman. I chose the black Bomberman.
Sure.
No other reason except I like the color. Okay, and I went to basically, you know, I got a bet on my bombs. So who do you have here though? Because the Grover's pretty strong right now.
The only reason I'm concerned with the Hussars lineup is it's another regression from kind of the standard for them, and that's
the standard deviation.
It's not bad. I mean, I love creativity. I like their lineup more from an entertaining point of view. But we saw them try something a little sneaky last time. Did not work out. ClownFiesta with a rock-solid, literally in Inara's case, lineup. And I think they'll make it work better.
And that's the thing. We see Blazing Stars trying to find the rhythm, but already losing two, and that is not the way you want to start it. Unfortunately, the Flak Cannon seems to be out-exploding the two literal bomb characters in this game. Dredge going up and down, but eventually going back to base. 66% and counting, looking very similar to game 1 with ClownFiesta out to an early lead.
Yeah, and that's just
swing.
Having a hard time finding the damage when you have a guy like Simsaloo doing huge things on the Xin. You have your Leon, your Ashe, everyone's just playing so well right now on ClownFiesta, and it's such a two-sided coin in that I like their comp better.
Yeah.
But I really think they're just playing better at the moment. I think that they're playing more cohesively as a team.
Well, do you think, I mean, because that's where I see when a team who has maybe that synergy playing a little bit better, maybe some players a little bit more experienced.
Sure.
And it's hard to say that any players are more or less experienced. They've all played so much. But, you know, playing at a higher level right now, when that team experiments, it usually can be okay. When the team who's trying to get an upper hand and doesn't have it initially is now trying to experiment, that's when things can be a little snowballing like we've seen. Toot doing his best to throw off Ovum. There's nothing she can do about that. No mobility skills in the Inara, but a huge stun to counter-engage. And this is a great timing, good call from Ashe. Graphies now in trouble yet again. And Simsaloo, man, he's just been a star of the show right now. The Pip, now the Xin. It's just two unstoppable, hard-to-kill characters that have just been causing nightmares for Blazing Stars.
And Toot on the con is doing a good job of finding some damage, finding some picks where he needs to, but if you kind of look at this fight, it just feels so disjointed on the side of the Hussars. ClownFiesta is engaging all at once. They're utilizing all of their ultimates at the proper time. The Ashe initiates that fight, and then everyone follows up. And then it looked like a bunch of individual picks almost on the side of Hussars. One guy's here, one guy's there, and it just feels a little disjointed at the moment.
Woo! Now that's some damage. I will say, Dredge, one thing that we know the Pirate of the Abyss can do is output some damage if he hits you. A little bit of that left click technique, following up the scuttle. It's about 2,000, 3,000 burst right away that you're not expecting. It could be absolutely devastating, especially with the Luminary Genos, and that's what Graphies is hoping on. But going from the Barrack, then going to the Dredge, Graphies feels like the guy that needs to find that rhythm in this squad. Whether it needs to be on more of a consistent DPS, Dave, or maybe it just needs to be more of a consistent, dirty work. We've seen Koa do something similar like this to with NIP, doing those roles nobody wants to play. But it just hasn't worked out for him today.
But, I mean, he's the guy in the past, and this is a very good point that you bring up. He's been the guy to carry some of these games. I mean, we've seen him on the Cassie in the past. We've seen him on Leon in the past. And he's been the guy who's found the picks, who's found the damage, who's pushed the Hussars through to some map victories. And it's not that I don't like the Dredge, because there's always something to be said for an interesting pick. I mean, I love changing things up, making other teams uncomfortable, but I think that looking forward, they should maybe try to get that back to a more standard but high potential, high skill cap type of champion.
King Bomb here coming up, and that's Bomb King right. Just actually having to cancel it a little early. And here's a seismic crash. Ovum switches up. How about that for a 45-degree crossover? And now Antidoodle could be falling. He takes the damage, though, says, I'm not scared of you, Rock Lady. Fires back with a couple bombs of his own and the Luminary healing. And now they have a chance to maybe do something here. The Grumpy Bomb actually separates, too, because Volca tries to follow, but he can't. But, oh, my God, the damage. And Erase is just, he's been pretty good on this Leon. 2 games in a row, just looking dominant.
And this is what the Hussars are doing well in this fight right now, because it's a little more disjointed. That's where this comp is going to succeed. When ClownFiesta doesn't have the opportunity to get together and all fight as one, that's when the Hussars lineup is going to find some success, and that's why they've been able to hang in this one so long, I think.
And you know what? Erase picks a fight with the one guy who might be a little bigger than him on the battlefield right now, the opposite squad. That's Andrew Doodle. Very, very well-known Bomb King player, just carry. He's been in the PPL, and now with the PML trying to find a little bit of room to succeed. The Poppy Bomb does not quite get there, though, and 99% turns into yet another point. That's ClownFiesta zooming to 3-0.
Quick 3-0 again. I think last time was a little faster, so Hussars putting up a better fight this time around, but it's just, again, I think it's just the solid, more traditional lineup. You have the Inara point tank, you have the Ashe, who's, the last time we checked, she was top of the damage charts, so doing a great job. A little further down this time, actually the Dredge and the Cassie finding themselves to the top, but I think it was a lot of that came in that last fight. They were both doing a good bit of damage. Gets out of it.
Billow just in time. Got me off guard as well. Sometimes that through time and space from Genos can be a little... Can catch you and make you look like, oh man, that's not something I want on my reel. Beautiful shot from Stocks, though.
A fun fact is I have a 100% getting hit by through time and space percentage when it comes to me playing this. I don't think I've ever dodged a single. I mean, you see it, you see the big beam, you can get out of it, and I don't think I've done it once.
It's enchanting. You're
I
like,
walk towards
beautiful.
the light. Mothman meme right into the light.
I love it. And, I think at this point, we've seen some players decide that it might be a better fate than getting beat down as efficiently as they are from such a coordinated effort from ClownFiesta. Up and down. There's the slam. There's the immunity. There's the kill. Graphies not really a lot of places to go. He's going to unleash the Kraken. I think Sea Monsters are going to be left in the fairy tales today. Not going to have any real-world impact on this one. And that's a full wipe. It's a deicide.
And that's
that should be game here. 2-2 is going to be able to stall for a little bit with the overpower. Actually, no, he won't have time. He's going to go down before he can use it.
But that's that follow-up again. I mean, this actually almost a mirror image of how they won the first point push in this game, where there was a nice Ashe ultimate, and then the rest of the team just immediately followed up on it. They're playing so well and so conjoined right now that it's going to be hard to stop.
It's definitely hard. It just seems like, ClownFiesta showed up today. Blazing Hussars, I like the effort, but let's see if Game 3 changes what the dynamic has been thus far.
We hit triple frontline, we hit triple DPS, now maybe somewhere in the middle for game number 3. ClownFiesta is firing on all cylinders, and Blazing Hussars, the effort is there. You can see the damage numbers that are keeping up, and like there's
I
a
love
lot,
that.
but it's
the
just
effort is there.
well, they're getting the damage, but they're not getting any kills, and they're
Yeah.
not getting any points.
I don't think triple DPS hasn't ever been super popular on Jaguar Falls. Even like back when Fnatic were doing it as much as possible. I want to say, if my memory serves me, that they would sometimes break for Jaguar Falls and get a little bit tankier, where you're having more line of sight breaks. It's tougher to get those 1v1s, you know what I mean? It's much more likely that a team is going to be staying within arm's reach of each other, where, Dave pointed out, there is a couple of opportunities when things get chaotic and you do get those 1v1s with the Luminary damage coming through. Then Blazing Hussars kind of did stand a chance because, anyone 1v1ing with a Luminary at a pro level is going to have a fairly large advantage. That's a nice couple of plays here from Simeon. That's just a character he's really comfortable with.
I kind of think of it very similar to what you were actually mentioning yesterday. Genos is not the healer that's going to bring you back from a deficit. He's the one that has to get you ahead, and then you have to maintain that lead. Blazing Hussars, like, at the beginning of round 2, that was like the reset. Like, you have to be able to come in and get that lead, otherwise it's going to fall apart. But the names I wrote down, Cruncy did amazing on the Ashe in terms of zoning and just the pressure. You saw Ovum being able to get aggressive on Inara this time. Obviously, Simsaloo, who we just got all of those clips for. And of course, Arrays, who, again, just kind of seamlessly fits into the roster.
I think it was Evan that said that first about Genos, and that's it's changed the way that I've watched that character, and it makes it a lot more sense. And even though they've like started to change, they give him a little bit of like upfront flat, I believe 300 heal on his Astromark now. It still doesn't necessarily change what that character does for you, and I don't think like that's a small buff, maybe a little bit perception change somewhere in the community. But here, I think he's still kind of having that effect that Evan was talking about, where you have to stay out in front of your opponent with Genos.
Well, is there anything? ClownFiesta did a lot of damage during that game. We saw Andrew Doodle on the Bomb King, it's a notable Bomb King player, but not having any impact, essentially. Like, if they were able to get some damage out, they almost completely shrugged it off.
I don't know. There was a couple of moments. He got a little bit baited by his own Grumpy Bomb once. Like, he saw that he got a stun, pushed the corner, and died almost immediately after that. That was unfortunate. There was a Poppy Bomb that was unfortunate. I think an Ashe auto, like, maybe destroyed it or something, because he put the bomb down and was running in like he was gonna do something about it, and then did a little pop animation and nothing, and he just kind of looked up and died. So, a couple unfortunate things, which in a game this short, every early death matters. It's going to have a large impact on the total amount of damage you're able to do when you're dead for 30 seconds in this round, and the game's only 5-6 minutes long.
Well, they have one map to try and turn it around. They're going to Bright Marsh, which I'm going to go ahead and say, with Frog Isle being banned, there were 4 maps I think that you could go to. Serpent Beach, Jag Falls, Bright Marsh, and then you add Stone Keep, and those are going to be essentially, again, the standards is what I called them yesterday. And so
I'm kind of getting bored of Stone Keep.
You're going. We've seen a lot of Stone Keep and Splitstone Quarry. I'm a little tired of Splitstone Quarry starting off sets lately.
I'm down for these maps here. I always actually kind of like Bright Marsh because I think there's a lot you can do, and I like Jaguar Falls kind of for the same reasons. I guess I just like that sort of map dynamic where it doesn't really feel like you're too limited or pigeonholed, I guess, into picking certain champions. Cassie will go here. And Cassie has not been a big part of this set. We always talk about sometimes you'll see the team that gets first pick will ban something that's just like solid because they want to leave as many power picks open as possible so they can get something again when the picks and bans come back around to them for second and thirds.
Well, now they've gone in, they get the Grover, they ban out, I want to say like somewhat targeted, just being able to get rid of the Inara, but I think that's just because Ovum's been so prominent on that pick in the past. But we saw just from game 1 that you don't necessarily need it. If you give him someone aggressive, he can be just as aggressive. But Blazing Hussars, they grab the Grover, they grab the Ashe, they grab the Bomb King. I think this is enabling them to do something they haven't gotten to do this set, which is they can finally be the aggressors.
Definitely. And they do grab a Barrack. We'll see what they do. It's going to be a Maldamba to keep it topped off, and they give themselves a nice kind of room to flex here and be open for their final pick. Leon's been a big factor for them, and it gets taken away by the Blazing Hussars. Now, not a ton of frontliners still open. They will go to the Ruckus for the first time this set, and this feels like Blazing Hussars have changed the bans to just not necessarily ban what's meta, but ban stuff so they can leave open just what they're good at. And I feel much better about the front lines that they've drafted because the Hussars just feel like they're better at those front lines.
And I always love the play of banning Cassie, picking Ruckus, taking Leon, like get rid of his counters so that he can actually have an effect this game. Unfortunately, now you're playing into a pip, and it's going to be Simsaloo one more time, probably on that pip. So he's going to be feeling comfortable. He's on his own home. Which draft were you feeling?
I think Still ClownFiesta's a little bit, but I think Blazing Hussars are getting better every game.
Well, Evan and Dave are going to have to take us through it as we go into Bright Marsh.
By far my favorite music intro here for Bright Marsh. Pretty epic stuff. The orchestra.
The Skillshot House
choir.
Band. And
the Skillshot House Band.
we have them live in the sound stage.
Yeah, bringing out all the stops. I mean, I love it. We have a, what is it called? A conductor back there as well?
Right. Yeah, he's got the little stick and tapping on his music stand.
Keeping him on beat. I love it, man. Simsalo has been so deadly on the pip, and he's back on it. And Array's, his flexibility has been nice today, too, on the Leon, and then onto the Zen, which has also been a pretty power pick. The one thing I'll say is that Zen has a lot of burst, but in moments, when that Yomi strike hits, otherwise, maybe not as consistently bursty as Leon, so it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of slow down the pace that ClownFiesta have tried to push. That's a good start, though, with Simsaloo going down early.
What I do like, and I touched on this early on in last game, is a bit of a return to the normal here for the Hussars. You have a pretty standard lineup, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think they are looking for something that works, maybe tried a little too weird, and now finding some success early on in this game, finding a few kills early on here, so off to a much better start this time.
Now, they did well, but Simsaloo died very early, and if he plays this smart, that's going to be a big problem. Erase has been all around the world this map, and he's been in the back line, he's been in the front line. He's 23 health to his name, and Andy, he's going to push it, find the kill. Great play sometimes. You have to get aggressive there. 72% counting for Blazing Hussars now on the objective. And it is up to ClownFiesta to try to make one final push, but I'm not sure if they're going to be able to get there in time. This could be Blazing Hussars' first point here.
So Blazing Hussars finally regressing back to a point. Not regressing, progressing to a point.
Progressing, yes.
They're progressing to a point here, and you know, Doodle, big guy, name we haven't said too much early on in the series, getting himself back on the Bomb King, doing a much better job of making his presence felt, at least early on here, and I think it's a big reason they found themselves up 1-0 here.
And I think the other thing was giving Simsaloo this kind of Zen pip style, but also having the Leon on Arrays. It was a total different level of cleanup, of pressure, of burst that they could have and consistent damage. But now with Erase on the Zen, it turns like he's not really finding his moment quite yet. He's got the Spite available. It's going to be tough to get out of. He's got a whirl, but they're just going to go for it, and he finds the 400 damage kill over him, fighting with 5 health and a dream. But a quadra kill from Andrew Doodle, looking to make it a penta. Is he actually going to hit this? I don't know if it'll count. The delayed penta for my man Doodle. And he has started things off right for Blazing Hussars here on Bright Marsh.
And here you see what happens when you have a composition that can actually withstand longer fights. When you have triple DPS and you don't have sort of that sporadic fight and it gets over really quickly, you tend to lose. When you have, I think it was triple tank in the first game and it goes on too long, you don't have the damage to keep up. When you can protect a guy like Doodle on the Bomb King, he can bring out huge plays for you. He can find himself. I'll give him the penta. It wasn't official, but I'll give him the penta. Yeah. And that's what you have to lean on in these types of games.
You got to not be frustrated about these early results. You have to know that, you know, part of it is that we don't want to snowball somebody with triple tank. We don't need to dominate them with triple DPS. We could just play a normal game and find ourselves in a lineup that actually goes back and forth and gives us a little bit more wiggle room and just outplay, play better. I mean, that's what I find sometimes these lineups show me, is that maybe there's a lack of, you know, we want to win big or not win at all. Win big or lose big may not be the smartest bet here. But right now, just playing with the Ruckus, they have done so well. Toot firing those miniguns, and this could be a push here. And it would be not only their first point, but their second point, and a 2-0 on Bright Marsh.
And I've said Doodle's name a lot early on. Obviously, he got 5 kills in a fight, so you know he deserves it. We'll see that replay here, and it's not missing many shots here, if any, that you see. And it actually was the Maldamba kill on the backside of this that was really nice. Sort of a long range. Gets one more stick here, I think, and then cleans him up. Ooh.
Yeah.
No room for error on that one. No room for error.
Well, very small room as well for him to walk into, that doorway.
Small corridor. As such, he's got the leader on the damage charts here. And ClownFiesta, somebody I wanted to touch on. Obviously, he doesn't have the slash line of Doodle at the moment. Yeah. But we talked on this last game how we kind of wanted to see him back on the Cassie Leon type of champion, and he's doing that here, and he's done a much better job.
Much better.
Not that he did bad per se in the old games, but I think he's more comfortable on this type of champion, and it shows.
Yeah, and you have to know that, you know, Andrew Doodle, in my opinion, very much like, you know, if you watch the NBA, I compare him to somebody like a Damian Lillard, where, you know, he's not going to always get all the headlines, but if you let this man have any room, he will score 30, 40 on you, no problem, and be unstoppable. And that's what I think this comp has allowed. Andrew Doodle just feels so confident right now, jumping in the back line. If he trades 1-for-1 and he gets the healer, it's worth, baby. ClownFiesta captured the objective despite it. And so, unfortunately, his aggressiveness pushed that team into a weird spot, and they weren't able to contest with that fast cap. So, unlucky.
Yeah, and that's really all it is the fast capture. I mean, it's unfortunate because the end of that fight was going the Hussars' way.
Yeah.
They just didn't have nearly enough time with I think the meter was at like 90 by the time those kills started coming through, and all it took was just a couple ticks from that point on. So a little bit of unfortunate timing there from the Hussars. ClownFiesta are starting to find their groove here. Definitely pushed back in the first couple points on this map here, but starting to find some groove here on their first offensive push.
This is where Raze starts to really show up here. This is where the Zen starts to be a lot more valuable when he is not the focus of the fight. He can just swing these Yomi strikes, catch people unawares, 850 each time. If he's hitting 3, it's about 2,600 damage he's doing in a single instant, and that is such tremendous burst, but he's not going to get this all the time. So taking advantage of it here, Dave, is really important for him.
No, and you gotta look out for this if you're on the side of the Hussars. I mean, they're pretty much at the moment, not that there's much they can do about it, but allowing Erase to just kind of sit off to the side and wail on them with those Yomi strikes. They are going to put some pressure onto him now. He is going kind of low, has to get himself out of it. He is able to, but as you said, I mean, that's kind of the zone where he'll feel comfortable. When you're able just to sit in that little doorway and just wail on the enemy team's spawn, that's where a champion like the Zen is going to have his freest damage. So wouldn't be surprised to see him move back into a position like that to help on this final push.
There you go. But he's not going to get it all the time. He tries, but everyone is looking at him, and that's what Erase needs to figure out. And to me, my wonder is where's the call for him to go there, and why do we not see maybe Ovum to trying to create that space? Sorry, Ovum or Crunchy trying to create that space in order to help support that. And Simsaloo just being very cautious. I think they know they've got time. They want to make a strong push, and there it is. There's the Dome Shield. Oh, but a beautiful Poppy Bomb from Andrew Doodle to knock him out of the safe space. Gets right back into it, and a King Bomb is ready. Is he going to try to use it here? Tutu getting low. This could be trouble if they do not pop some ultimates.
Some unfortunate sticks there coming in onto Erase. He's going half health now, so he has to be careful not to fall on the backside of this fight. Overtime is going to start ticking away. Still ultimates available for both sides, however.
There's Evil Mojo as well. Will Simsaloo go for it? OT on the ready. He's got a little bit of the explosive flask bonus damage coming through, and by a little bit, I mean a lot. Tutu is melting, and he is definitely tooting the horn for help. Nobody is there, though. Stock staying up on the high ground. Graffias trying to poke away. Ovum gets another reset of the bowling ball, but it's just not going to be enough. But that's a beautiful show up there from Simsaloo. Now he's trying to find Andy in the air, who's forced to run down. A beautiful Dread Serpent as well. The lifesteal, the damage, the immediate incision from ClownFiesta to start, stop, and start again in bursting speed. That ties the game up.
And I think the difference maker there, I mean, that was such a close fight. Damage meter showing how close of a game this is. It's like each tier, the red and blue player are pretty much tied damage-wise. But there were just a couple ultimates used there at the end for ClownFiesta, whereas I think the only one that was used for the Hussars was the Whirlwind. You saw the Dome Shield come out. The Dread Serpent was huge in that final fight, and I think that the willingness to use those 3 ultimates, the Spite as well, was just enough to give them the advantage. Blazing Hussars feeling like they could hold on with the timer being as low as it was. But the flip side of that coin is they now have 4 ultimates and then a pretty quick charging Whirlwind going into this next fight.
I mean, that's definitely the advantage. You just can't get a bad Overpower. You can't get a bad Evil Mojo. You have to play around those 2 because you know they have them. But that's a beautiful anticipation. Erase must have done this already, but he's in the backside now. This is a problem. They have to get aggressive, and they have done so very well. Andy with 2. Oh boy, the Bomb King gets stunned, but he ain't scared of nothing. He's looking after Bolka, gets a nice Poppy Bomb, and Erase now is by himself. This is a little bit of what we saw last time, but now the team is rotating with Andy, and that is a big problem. And Erase looks to be going down to Billow, but he doesn't have the healing. Bolka's pushed back. Boy, oh boy, Blazing Hussars have turned up the heat.
And the ultimate advantage.
He got him.
He did get him. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Doodle. But the ultimate advantage not necessarily, dictating the way that went, and the Hussars actually able to hold on to a few of them there. So that was just a good old-fashioned fight that happened. ClownFiesta actually burning their last few ultimates. So Stars still having some after that to play with here. They have to be careful not to go too low. They do go too low. 2-2 dropping. Simsaloo finding himself 2. Finding himself 3.
Oh, that's the problem. We talked about not letting the evil mojo go through, but Simsy says, I don't even need my ult. I got the skills. I got the aim. I know exactly what I'm doing, and that's going to be ClownFiesta with one simple move going to take the 3rd point and move ahead of Blazing Hussars. Beautiful stuff from Simsaloo. He has really shown up at the worst of times for the entire Blazing squad.
And that's just tough because we saw it on the flip side with Doodle earlier in this game, finding himself 5 kills in a fight. Sometimes when those fights are just kind of back and forth, Blazing Hussars had one. They had just gotten onto the point. They had retaken it. But all it takes is one player on either team to pop off, and it completely changes how things. I mean, that's just something you can't really play. You can set yourself up as well as you want, but if Simsaloo's going to hit every single shot on this pip and just burn people down, that's just hard to avoid regardless.
I mean, he's on Bright Mars. This is his home map. I mean, he's going to get a little bit of that advantage. This is made for a Volpine here, and I think he knows exactly where he needs to be.
Feels at home.
He feels at home. No doubt about it. 1 minute and 38 seconds now on the push. Andrew Doodle continuing to trade with Bolka. It's a smart move in general in Paladins. If you trade a damage player for a support, typically you're going to get the edge because the support means so much more than the DPS. But with Andrew Doodle's case, it may be a little different because he's such an important carry. He's the one who was before this 10-1. We can take a look at the KDAs now as well and see where he's at, 18-6. So it's not just trading a DPS. You're trading the way you're winning fights.
Right.
And so there is something to be said about this aggressiveness maybe hurting Andrew Doodle if he continues it and doesn't, I guess, have some patience with how he goes off.
Simsaloo not missing a shot there onto Doodle, continuing the no-miss shots from before there, and ClownFiesta starting to roll here, finding themselves 4. And that's kind of something we've seen throughout this entire series, but on this map as well, the Hussars win a big fight. They feel confident. They keep ClownFiesta zoned back in their base, but then maybe feel just a little too overconfident, overextend here. You get a pick on one guy here, a pick on the other guy there, and then they just get wiped.
I mean, they were opposite. They were literally towards ClownFiesta's base. And ClownFiesta were like, wait, we're going to go back to the point while you try to get back to us, and we just are going to keep killing you. It was an unfortunate dive, and again, Andrew Doodle trying to get to the back line, but he dies to Simsy, who is one of the only healers that can effectively win a trade against the BK just because he's got that self-heal and enough damage to contend with him. Kammaker getting very, very low, and stocks going down spells trouble for the rest of Blazing Hussars. It's just Andrew Doodle left, and I'm not sure the King is going to be able to rule over these very unruly subjects.
And we have seen the payload stopped out here previously on this map, the Hussars stalling out at least once, so can't count them out just yet here. And this is where the Xin got poked last time, and that's really what stalled it out. Simsaloo looking for some kills, find some damage. Raise opens things up, though.
And that's perfect because Toot then tries to go to finish off Simsaloo, but because of the heal, he has to go and face towards the objective. And that is the problem here. Simsaloo on a 7th Street, and he's jumping up again. The angles are so difficult, but look at this. There's not enough. Blazing Hussars find the hold. And although they use an Enlightenment, although they've used a lot of their resources, they're still able to do it. But Simsy is definitely seeming to be the key point for ClownFiesta. If he gets going this next round, it's going to be very hard for Blazing Hussars to take a win.
No, and he's been the one to turn the tides in fights that look like the Hussars are winning, and they do win.
Yeah.
But then it's like Simsy and one other guy, Cruncy or Ovim. Like it's the Pip and the Barrack left alive.
Right.
And then he just finds all of the damage and flips the fight on its head. So that's certainly who you have to look out for. He doesn't have the most damage in the game.
Right.
Doodle and Grafisi finding those on the Bomb King and the Leon. But ultimate-wise, neither team looking like they have the edge going into this final fight here. Some ultimates quicker charging than others, but only one up total in this game, and that's the Dread Serpent.
And that is going to be interesting to see because that has been used to kind of stave off a lot of the aggressive plays from Andrew Doodle a little bit earlier. Whirlwind from Stocks trying to stay alive here, but Cauterize just too powerful. That's why Grover's such a good early game target. Simsy jumps in to his death. The Grumpy Bomb set up perfectly, and Andrew Doodle, however, despite making a nice play on the DPS, gets DPS'd himself. And a 16 streak for Bolka spells the problem all too easily for him.
And that's just a willingness. That's just a willingness to give up a few initial points or for percentage points on the point in exchange for a better position and going into the final fight. 93% in climbing. ClownFiesta looking to close things off here.
And 96% counting. Looking to find the overpower, but there's not really a great target right now. Kamaker maybe is the one. Andrew Doodle has 4 health to his name, and Simsalu's going to take all 4 of those points with his explosive flask. There's some extra damage. Simsy with another triple kill. Not only did he beat the triple tank, not only did he beat the triple DPS, it only took 3 games, it seems like, to be able to do it. So this should be ClownFiesta cleaning up the set 3-0 over Blazing Hussars today. Looking dominant in this week of the PML.
Yeah, and you feel bad because they did a much better job. Obviously, they found some points in that final game, so doing a much better job with some success there. Definitely something to hold on to moving forward, showing that a move back to sort of a standard lineup isn't necessarily a bad thing.
I'm excited to see how this develops. Obviously, Blazing Hussars trying some things. That's the way to find out what works. Got a lot closer in Game 3, but that's going to end the set. Let's send it back to the desk as ClownFiesta takes set 1.
And they look real good doing it. That's just, I think, the story of the way it went. The first game, the second game was very clean, but that third game, it got a lot more murkier in the waters for them, and a lot of that was Andrew Doodle on the Bomb King.
You had definitely those pop-off moments, I think, on both sides, and what it came down to is just, I think, when you're the better team, like ClownFiesta have shown that they are, you kind of make those adjustments as the game goes on. All right, why is he running over us? Why did we just get penta-killed? How do we stop this? Obviously, the game will naturally change a little bit when COTS and Wreckers come on. Tanks don't necessarily do what they do. Healers don't really do what they do as much anymore. Maybe even Resilience is coming online, so your ultimates aren't doing what they used to do. But I think Simsalu obviously had a lot of great answers. He had a lot of great team fights. He's an incredible pit player. But ClownFiesta just kind of outweighing at the end of the day.
I actually want to give some shout-outs to Graphies, even though he was 11 and 10. Like, I mean, he kept up in damage. It was something I didn't really notice. It felt like Andrew Doodle was doing the work. That's because he's 20 and 11. So his slash line definitely showcasing how many kills he was able to do. But I do want to give the credit where credit's due. Leon being a part of that as much, if not maybe a little more than some of the other members there for Blazing Hussars. But unfortunately, you are always met by this kind of pincer between what would essentially be 4 members of ClownFiesta.
He looked pretty good on the Zin as well. I mean, this is good stuff from Arrays. He stepped up to the plate in a lot of ways, right? Because Graphies, we talked about, feels like he's taking this Leon away from Arrays to make him a little bit uncomfortable, but I think Zin was a great transition. It's worked well for ClownFiesta in games already in this set, but it was Simsalo that played it, right? So we still want this pick, but we need somebody with the versatility to play it, and Arrays starting to show that he might be that guy.
I mean, I just drew a line from something I wrote in Game 1, which was don't let Simsalu have Pip, and I just drew it straight down back to that one. That was another great example of why he can do a lot. But I think there was an unsung hero in that game, and it was kind of mentioned towards the end by Evan, and that was the fact that Bolka just didn't die.
Yeah, that definitely helps.
He went on like a 16 streak, but that is going to be it for set number 1. ClownFiesta close it out in 3. Now we're going to be moving on to the next set, but before that, we have a quick break, so stay tuned, and we'll be back right after this.
Brought to you by Skillshot, Hi-Res Studios, Evil Mojo, INAP, SteelSeries, Respawn.